will do the intro this time since you screwed up the last one.
No, we got to do it again.
No.
So he can speak up.
No, we don't.
No.
We don't script. This
We
is not the
don't script.
WWE. We do not script our promos.
We are Impact Wrestling.
Even
Okay,
worse.
one more comment like that, and I will fire you. You remember who runs the network?
You remember who gave you a 5-star rating?
Not
Me.
you. Whoever the guy that gave the rating
Yeah,
was the guy that
yeah.
gave the rating.
And-
Yes, and you know what? We've been going 17 seconds and haven't even done the damn intro. So shut up so I can do this intro. Welcome to Two Guys in a Wrestling Podcast. This is Joel Walling. With me is the idiot, Michael Keaton, not the famous one. And, of course, you are listening, as sort of was hinted to it, the only 5-star voice of wrestling podcast from Lexington,
Hold
Kentucky.
up. I'm an idiot. Yes,
you're right.
I'm promoting this podcast all over my Facebook, and yes, it's because of me we got the 5-star rating. Let's not forget that.
Let's not forget who screwed up my name in the other intro.
You can
That
get over it.
almost
Okay,
got fired.
People listen because of me. I'm the star of the show. Okay, I'm Morris Day. You're Jerome. Do not laugh.
A
Do not.
trained monkey could do your job.
I doubt it.
Someone get me a monkey. We will find out.
This is what we do, people.
Yeah, as I said, this is the most professional wrestling podcast you will ever hear. Unless you listen to another one.
Ever.
Yeah, unless you listen to any of the other ones. And, of course, the other
Yeah.
voice in the room, which, hold on, you got your headphone all tangled up in the microphone. Wow, we are prepared for this.
This is your mess up, not mine. You booked this, not me.
I'll take it. This train wreck's all me right here.
Dude, you booked this. I didn't. I just showed up.
Well, that's what you always do.
Look, dude, you paid me to show up here, okay? Granted, it's not that much. I get like 25 cents, but still, it's money. And hey,
Luckily, you work for Mountain Dew.
touche. We should for real upload this.
This is exactly how it's going to go in. I'm going to upload it. The people are going to hear. The people are going to hear what I have to put up on a weekly basis.
Yeah, you
Except
gotta
for
put up.
Nelson.
Yeah, you gotta put up with me,
I know.
the greatest podcast journalist of all time. Yeah, I'm Corey Graves. I went there.
And then you name Corey Graves. Well, we got plenty of time. Don't worry about it.
This is what we do.
Yeah, like I said, this is what we do. And of course, we're going to actually, since I'm sharing microphones at the moment, because as professional as we are, we only have 2 microphones.
Well, I'm sorry. Okay, I did not know that a third person was coming. You did not send me a text and let me know about this.
No, I told you in person.
I just forgot. Once I got the Mountain Dew, it was like it's over.
Yeah, once you got your payment for the week, you were like, okay, I'm done.
First of all, dude, I did the match cards. Okay, that's what I get paid to do.
You Googled something.
It's called the Google Waveback Machine. Don't judge my method. Okay. Okay, I just texted. I mean, do you know what kind of phone I have? I'll tell you what kind of phone I have. It's called the Bat phone. Okay, it's cracked like hell, but still.
Well, at least if you're going for a Michael Keaton character, at least you went for Batman, not Beetlejuice
Thank God, right?
or Mr. Mom.
I hated that movie.
I don't need you coming in here with like a bunch of kids hanging off of you or anything.
I hated that movie though. I like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, everybody likes Beetlejuice. Oh my God, he agreed.
He actually agreed to something.
Which brings us to the third person in the booth today, this afternoon, whenever we are.
Whenever you guys hear this podcast.
Yeah, whenever you hear this podcast. So, with the third person in the booth with us tonight, this morning, this afternoon, this early evening,
midday.
Yeah, midday.
If it's an alien transmission, beep 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 midday.
Yeah. That was actually pretty good. I got to give you credit on that one. But anyway, is Nelson Smith. So say hi.
Howdy, folks.
So what we have is Jesus, about what? 3 or 4 2 weeks. So, okay, someday that was not today, but it was sometime in the recent past. Me and Nelson actually ended up showing up here because someone didn't make it.
Because I was stuck in traffic. That's what I do.
You take the bus.
You had to be a dick, didn't you?
Why did I take the
There's
bus?
a bunch of construction around downtown.
It's eco-friendly.
Exactly.
There, we both take the
Okay.
bus. All three of us take the bus because it's eco-friendly.
Okay.
We're trying to save the environment.
Exactly. We're going green.
Yeah, we're going green. We're just like Daniel Bryan. We need to get Daniel Bryan on here to support this show.
We're the planet's tag team champions.
There you go. We're the Planets Podcast.
You heard it here first.
But
We should get we should get like a cardboard belt.
Don't you already have one?
Really?
But anyway, yeah.
Folks, I'm just a guest, and I'm putting up with Twiddledee and Twiddledum.
But anyway, and you unhooked your own headset. And that shuts you up about the Tweedledee 20 part, huh?
See what happens? Yeah, whenever you get hyper. Are we good now?
Yeah, we should be fine. But anyway, whenever we did do this, we did it. Me and Nelson actually did a little bit of a discussion back and forth interview about handicapped people in pro wrestling, because this was around the time I was giving Lieutenant Dan all sorts of crap, and I was getting lots of
I caught
wasn't
the
getting
heat
lots of
for
crap,
it.
but you were, yeah. Mike was getting all the crap for it. Even people were messaging me on Facebook and everything. Goes, how'd you? And I'm sitting there like, I said 10 times worse things. But I still stand by what I said, which I will go into in the interview. I don't need to go into this anymore. When me and Nelson talk about it, we do get a little bit off topic and cover a whole bunch of other crap. I don't even, it's been so long now. I don't even remember what all we talked about.
Talked about the handicap thing, and then we talked about wrestlers that I very much dislike, which was only a few that I mentioned, but I have a whole lot more.
Well, yeah, if we go into wrestlers you don't like, we might be here a while.
Probably.
Yeah, we would be like, okay, we're going to need, we'd have to
So
go,
did y'all
we'd have to
mention
talk
like
to
Zach
manager.
Gowen and all those guys?
Yeah, we talked to Zach. Oh, no. Yes, we did. We talked a little bit about Zach Gowen, and then you sent me the name. Hold on. We're going to get real professional here. I'm bringing out my cell phone.
Yeah.
Because.
Everyone looks up
Mendes,
stuff.
Something Mendes?
Yeah, something.
Shawn Mendes from
No.
TNA?
No.
I don't
Chris
think it was
Mendes.
Chris Mendes. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
Chris
it.
Mendes.
I know
The-
it was Mendes something.
Yeah, the guy who was a one-legged competitor in TNA.
He was there for like what, a year? Was it like a
Not
year?
even a year.
I thought it felt like a year.
No. He was only there for a few months.
It felt like it was a year.
Yeah, they only used him for a very short time, which is a shame.
Wasn't he like a ex-Navy person?
He was in the military. I don't remember what branch, but he
think-
actually
I think-
he lost his leg from
IED.
IED.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
an IED explosion. So yeah, and
Okay.
then the main wrestler that I talked about that I despise, and I still despise him to this day, even when I see him on different shows today, is Stone Cold Steve Austin. I hate him with a passion. The worst gimmick ever invented.
Wow,
I hit my cord. I was so mad.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever seen that expression happen there. Mike was just like, that was like me and you talking about AEW. When I'm like, yeah, when I'm like, they did what?
Okay, first of all, I can agree with you. Stone Cold was a little overhyped, but at the time it worked and it got over. I mean, if it wasn't for Stone Cold, you wouldn't have had the Attitude Era. You wouldn't have probably the greatest era in professional wrestling. Bottom line. Sorry to shoot a pun to Austin there. What?
And
Somebody's still a little red faced over here.
Well, yeah, it's like I said, that expression. That's the same one that I got when I heard, yeah, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks did a Hadoken, and the Lucha Brothers sold it.
Did they really sell it?
Yes. Mike showed the clip earlier. I thought you saw it.
No.
They were doing like
But I mean, I watched the match. I
the
did
Lucha
know.
Brothers were doing like a run off the rope, and I guess they were going like coming back into clothesline. It was doing 3-on-3.
Mm-hmm.
And Omega and the Young Bucks standing about mid-ring do the
Hadouken!
Yeah, that. And the Lucha Brothers, and I can't remember who was the third partner.
Damn it. His name
Anyway.
escapes my mind.
Yeah. Anyway, the Lucha guys.
Some other Mexican guy.
Yeah, the Mexican guy did backflips and sold like they had been hit by an invisible force.
I think El Generico might know that guy. I mean, he lives in Mexico right now
Yeah, probably.
with Kevin Steen. I'm just saying.
You know, that's something we've got to discuss one day.
What?
Sami Zayn, period. A Canadian-born
He's a cluster.
Syrian that looks like a ginger, pretended to be Mexican, and acts like a 50-year-old Jew.
He's a cluster. He's a cluster.
But anyway, that's all for another day, and we're already running longer than I had intended. So we're going to go right to the discussion with me and Nelson about a bunch of random crap and handicap wrestlers in professional wrestling and companies and how it works. So hope you all enjoy that. And what
I don't know.
I guess I just want to apologize for the intro because God, that was just I don't know.
But you have to admit it was hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks again for listening. I hope this doesn't chase you off. We do not want to be the AEW pre-show of podcasting.
That would be bad.
Yeah. Okay, well, today we actually, there's no we in this. It's just me alone at the moment. But for the past 3 weeks, however long we've been doing this, I've been kind of laying heavily in jokes, or I guess you'd say just little jokes about a guy named Dustin Thomas. Or as most AEW fans will remember him as, is the guy with no legs that got called Lieutenant Dan and told sorry he doesn't measure up by MJF in the buy-in battle royal, which was a catastrophe of clusterous proportions to begin with. But since I have been really saying really kind of mean things, and again, like I said, I say this stuff jokingly because the match he was put in made him the center of the jokes. Just because how is a no-legged man going to win an ass-kicking contest? You know, but I actually have a guest now that is going to bring in a different perspective and kind of talk about him and a few others. The effect of handicapped, I guess you would say, for lack of a better term, performers in professional wrestling. And so we're going to welcome Nelson Smith onto the show.
Glad to be here.
So, like I said, we're talking here about, there have been a few. I mean,
TNA did it. WWE did it for a short time. Both companies did it.
Using the same guy, Zach Gowen. He was
actually, it was WWE had a different guy.
No, his was originally Zach Gowen. I remember he actually made his debut here in Cincinnati.
The guy that I remember them using in WWE was a white guy. And
Zach Gowen is white.
No. The one that they used in TNA, he was kind of dark skinned.
Okay, so maybe they did have a different guy. Yeah. But I know Zach Gowen was in TNA, and I believe he was also in Ring of Honor.
Okay.
I can't speak for certain on that, but anyway, he had lost his leg to cancer, right, and he was performing on one leg. While he did do like backstage stuff with a prosthetic, he performed in ring with one leg, and he did some pretty amazing stuff for someone with one leg. Right. I mean, it was incredible to see. They never put him in a battle royal. They didn't put him in like anything where it was but he did, I think, compete in some cruiserweight stuff because that was basically what he was. He was a high flyer.
Well, the guy that I remember that they used in TNA, they said that he lost his leg while he was serving in the military.
Okay, that definitely was a different guy then. It was definitely, apparently that's one I missed after TNA slipped into obscurity.
No, that was before TNA started tanking.
Oh, okay. When because TNA was not really broadcast in Canada.
Right.
A matter of fact, for the first few years I was there, Spike TV wasn't even in Canada.
Right. Well, the guy that they used, like I said, was one-legged, and they pretty much used him as a guy that was a war hero. Yeah,
and that would also, like I said, there are ways of doing the handicap angles where they're not basically being put in as a joke.
Right. Well, the one with WWE, I think more or less was put in as a joke because he wasn't in the military or anything like that. It was just like they just brought him in.
Well, he was, like I said, I remember Zach Gowen because actually he made his WWE debut, I believe, either in Cincinnati or close to one of his first.
Yeah, I think it was originally a
Cincinnati.
Product of Cincinnati
Because
wrestling.
he had talked, like I said, they talked about the fact that he was a cancer survivor. He had to lose because of bone cancer. He had to have his leg amputated.
Right.
And I do remember, it's kind of par for the course with WWE that they're going to make, sooner or later, everyone's going to be a joke there.
Yeah.
I mean, look what they did with Kane. They've done it with, except for maybe The Undertaker, they haven't really made a jokey character of him yet.
No.
But, everyone else, they at some point has become more of a joke. Because I do remember when he first came in, he was kind of doing what I had said about having, I believe the guy's name's Dustin Thomas, come in and do like a thing where he was a fan and like get a hold of a manager or something. Because I remember one with him was Triple H, and Triple H was like, I think he even made the joke about being a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
Yeah,
then the guy he comes over, drop kicks him in the face, and all of this, and Triple H rolls out.
Like, oh, holy!
Yeah, that was like, but see, that was great because you had, and that gave him the pop that he needed and the boost, because here you went from having the heel, which was Triple H, he was one of the better heels, coming in and insulting him and calling him this and saying that and saying this and saying the other.
And then he turns around.
And then he turns around and he starts beating him up. And then it's like, oh, yeah, because that was the way wrestling worked.
Yeah, it's sort of like, oops, I opened my mouth.
Exactly. He was like, well, oops, I opened my mouth, and that guy put a boot in it,
Yeah.
And then, Zach still, I remember, I think one of them he did end up fighting Brock Lesnar, and it was a pretty well squash match.
That shouldn't ever happened.
No, it shouldn't. But again, and if I'm not mistaken, that was kind of an angle they were running.
Yeah.
They were putting in him in matches that were like drastically out of his
element.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But my view on having people in wrestling that are handicapped, I think they should do more of it, because like I was telling you a while back, that there are kids that look up to people like that because they don't have a role model at home, because they either don't have a father or a mother or either. And when they're watching like wrestling, they see these guys that have, guys or girls, whichever, they see that they have a challenge physically, and they're like, wow, these people can do these things, and they're not 100% healthy, but they still do these things. That's the kind of person I want to look up to. Someone that actually makes an effort to make something of themselves in today's world.
Well, when you boil down to the origin of what we look at now as professional wrestling or sports entertainment, whichever one you want to call it,
right?
That's exactly what the whole basis of it is, you think back to the old, back in the 80s with Hulk Hogan, and it was say your prayers, take your vitamins, do this, it's the ultimate good versus the ultimate evil. And when you do have somebody who is automatically starting out in life with a disadvantage, or like Dustin Thomas had to some type of spine disease and ended up losing his legs and had to be amputated. Zach Gowen had, cancer and had to have his leg amputated. The other guy was, a war hero. He went to, serve his country and protect freedom and ends up losing his leg in the line of duty. And it's like, well, for someone who was either born that way, it shows that, hey, this is not something that is going to hold you back if you don't let it.
Right.
And for people, and especially for people who aren't born this way, that start, or something happens to them, like they lose their leg in an accident or due to disease or something like that, or lose a body part, it kind of says to them, hey, I was the same way. I mean, that guy, when he was in Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever,
I think he was a Iraq veteran.
He had both of his legs and, everything, but still, when he came back, he was still continued with his life. His life didn't, a new chapter started in it and that. So you're absolutely right. And used right, these guys can be, even to people without disabilities. It's just somebody who, is just normally either depressed or, you look at an overweight person, it's like, hey, look, this guy is doing these things in the ring with one leg. maybe I should, it does influence and it does inspire people. And I think you're right about that. It would be good to see more of a representation of that.
Right. And also, I remember they had a wrestler. Of course, he wasn't mentally challenged in real life, but they had a guy in WWE in mid-2000 called Eugene.
Eugene, played by Nick Dinsmore.
I didn't know the guy's real name. And I thought that was pretty cool how they had a guy play a character or somebody that was mentally challenged, but was able to be a wrestler. And he was good at it.
Yeah, actually, Nick Dinsmore is actually a really, really exceptional wrestler. He just doesn't. He never had the WWE look, and that's why he gets stuck with the Eugene gimmick.
Which, I mean, I said, it was a pretty good gimmick.
Yeah, it was something, and he played off of it well. He even, to an extent, carried it over when he left the WWE, carried it into the independent scene.
Yeah,
and like you said, it was something that the WWE itself realizes that a lot of what it does is directed at children, and a lot of it is directed through like Make-A-Wish and things like that. And as much as it, you want to see the stars at the level of like Cena and Orton and Triple H, The Undertaker, these guys that are almost godlike in their abilities and the way they do things, you still want to also have, I guess you would say, people you could aspire to be,
people that, are not considered immortal. Yes.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I was talking. Like when you look at like Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, the Ultimate Warrior, these guys were always larger than life.
Right. They were supposedly invincible.
Exactly. And now you see a person that has faced the adversities and has come through.
And it's on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. So it does work. And but now, sadly, like most of the time in wrestling, like I said, sooner or later, everybody becomes the joke.
Yeah.
And then you did end up having, like Zach Gowen destroyed by Brock Lesnar, or the no-legged guy getting stomped in the corner and being
right.
Which I will say in the defense of MJF. One, that was an epic part in that battle royal, and that battle royal did not have any epic parts except for epic F-ups.
I've not seen any of that pay-per-view, but I'm sure I can find parts of it on YouTube.
Yeah, except I would actually, if I'm actually telling you to watch something on it, I do think the Kenny Omega Jericho match was good. I do think it went a little bit long, but I think for the match it was actually really good. And I still say, hands down, the Dustin Rhodes and Cody match was probably one of the best wrestling matches I've seen in probably a decade.
Well, from the little bits I've seen on YouTube and things I've read about it, it was like the highlight of the pay-per-view, more or less.
Easily.
Because it was two brothers fighting each other.
It was an old school kind of match, and Cody did great as a heel. He was a natural born. As much as Dusty, his father, was a natural born face. Everybody loved Dusty Rhodes.
Oh yeah, the American Dream. Who couldn't like him?
When he took over this the American Nightmare gimmick, what he's doing now, he is just natural to it. Right. As much as, like I said, as much as his father was a natural face and everybody loved him, this is the guy that you can hate. I mean, I'll tell you, if you're squeamish at all, you might not want to watch it.
Nah.
Because Dustin, he bleeds.
I know. His brother used an actual cane on him and didn't.
No, there was no cane involved. It was when he was supposed to go into an exposed turnbuckle pad. And actually, it's kind of a goof up on Dustin's part. No offense, but it was. He bladed the other side of his head. He hit this side and he bled from this side. So he bladed on this side. And I don't know if he hit an artery or what.
Well, from what I saw on YouTube, they said that Cody had a cane with a silver head on it and hit him.
This must have been on the
forehead.
Yeah,
and it caused him to bleed.
It must have been from another one because there was no cane involved in this match.
That was my understanding.
Dustin was actually like walking around poking the bear the whole time, because when he went into Vegas early, and the entire time he was there, he walked around in a shirt that said Dusty's favorite.
Yeah.
So he was kind of pushing that, and it maybe had been something earlier, like one of the times that they were talking or something. But yeah, the only thing he was hit with during the match, as far as I guess you would say an illegal object would go, was a water bottle.
Okay.
What's her name? Brandy?
Yeah.
Brandy
Rhodes.
Yeah. She like threw a water bottle in his face.
Which I got to say, she is one of the most gorgeous female wrestlers I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, that was as close as it came to that. But like I said, they say it was from the exposed turnbuckle. Dustin does the kick in the corner, and Cody ripped the pad off, was like daring him to kick.
Right.
And then by the time Dustin started to run in to do it, Cody reversed it, slid, and he went head first into the pad.
And started bleeding like a stuffed pig.
And yeah, like I said, when he lands, he hits the like left side of his face, and the right side of his head starts bleeding.
All right.
And there is one time he's like laying and he's starting to get up off the mat, and you just see a solid stream of blood.
Yeah,
coming out
I
of
think
his
I
head.
saw that on YouTube.
By the end of the match, the ring's covered in blood, Dustin's covered in blood, Cody's covered in blood, the ref's covered in blood.
Yeah, the whole ring is pretty much
it looks like somebody.
color.
Yeah, it looks like somebody killed, slaughtered an animal or something in there. It was horrible.
It was like almost like a sacrifice type
But it
thing.
was one, and I think it actually, because Cody did kind of like jerk back when he first saw it. I think that was maybe a little bit like,
It's like,
crap.
oh no.
But he slid right back into character, and he kept on going. He did have a couple of little like hesitation moments, but then he like, no, I can't. This is my brother. But then, oh no, and he goes for it. There's one scene that really got me. He like puts his hand in the blood puddle and rubs it on his chest.
Across his chest, yeah.
Like I said, that match was great. It really was.
Which brings me to the point that, like TNA, WWE, and ROH, those three companies, I really don't care too much for anymore. Like WWE used to be fun, but now to me, it's like the same soap opera every week on both shows. It's the same storyline, the same matches, the same everything. Just a different name, but the same.
Yeah,
show.
that's kind of been the downfall for some time now with the WWE, and it has been affecting them. And I think I don't know, because you look at like when SmackDown Live first started, it was a lot better, and then it kind of slid into that. NXT is a lot better.
I liked it when it was just known as SmackDown, not SmackDown Live. I like
the reason they specifically call it SmackDown Live is it's never been live before.
Right. It was always
It's
taped
always
like
pre-recorded.
a day before.
It was usually done on Tuesdays and aired whenever.
like on a Thursday.
Yeah, now
like
they've
that.
started doing it live, so it's actually that's what they're specifying. It is live.
And you know how they came up with the SmackDown concept?
Well, the name came from The Rock.
Yeah.
Because at the time, The Rock was like the biggest guy in wrestling.
Yeah. If it wasn't for The Rock, SmackDown would not exist today.
Well, at least in the name.
Yeah, in the name. Yeah. So you got to give The Rock kudos on that one.
Well, that's what he's always talked about, that being The Rock show.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it was, like I said, it was named after him laying the smackdown on me. He
Yeah.
always did. Yeah, that was his running gimmick.
Yeah.
Besides being, well, I could go into his whole thing. I used to know the whole speech by heart.
Yeah.
So when he copied Ric Flair's wheeling, dealing, kiss stealing, the limousine riding, jet flying.
Oh, The Rock was good at copying other people's stuff.
Ric Flair did. He was a limousine riding, jet flying, wheeling, dealing, kiss stealing, son of a gun. The Rock did the eyebrow raising, jabroni beating, eyebrow raising, pie eating. I can't remember the order goes in there.
But anyway, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
and he did the same with Hulk Hogan, with the whole Hulkamaniac thing.
Yeah.
He did a similar thing with Hogan.
And then he started writing his lines on his arm and became Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah. Coming out to the ring with the guitar in his hand and sitting down.
He always did the rock concerts. That's what he would call them. And he always did. And he had some classic ones.
like the one with Vicky Guerrero. I'll never forget that
Yeah.
one. He starts singing really nice to her, and then he breaks out into the rock.
Yeah. Well, that was, like I said, when he do the rock concerts, that was always one of the high points of it, because he was hilarious when he did that.
Yeah.
And to think he used to come up with that stuff all on the fly,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that was back before they started really scripting it. There were some people they scripted and some they don't.
Right.
And I mean, they're trying to get back to that now, but you quickly can see who's scripted and who's not, because sadly a lot of the people don't know how to cut promos without being told what to say, and that's really, like I said, it's bad. It's kind of sad, because it's a lost art.
Right.
I mean, you look at, like, we were joking about some of the catchphrases last night, actually texting back and forth.
Yeah.
And I remember the one, and now that I'm thinking back, I'm not sure if it was Ronnie Garvin or not, but I remember it was back in the 80s, and the guy was like, he was in a feud with a Hawaiian guy.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there and he's like, why you talk about you're going to Hawaii and you're surfing and hanging 10? I ain't got to go surfing if I want to hang 10. If I want to hang 10, all I got to do is stand here and smile. He has stuff like that. And I love, I love Jim Cornette doing like, he gets on, and he was really good at towing the line of keeping things without, and he did one against, he was managing Dick Murdoch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were feuding against somebody else, and his manager was Baby Doll.
Yeah.
And he's like, or no, not Baby Doll. What is her name? Something Blue.
Scott.
No, I can't remember her name now. Crap. But anyway, he's like, Dick Murdoch is a handsome man.
Yeah.
In fact, or I can't remember, so I'm just Baby Doll. She's infatuated with Dick Murdoch. She's this with Dick Murdoch. In fact, I have it on good authority. All she can think about is Dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he towed the line, because when everyone's like, did he just say all she could think? No, well, yeah, but I was talking about Dick Murdoch. He had that out. And see that, and to think, like I said, back in those days, the prep was, okay, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Go. Or 2 minutes. Go. A minute and a half. Go. That was it. That was as much as they prepped.
And like I was talking to her about earlier today, is like I missed the little vignette videos that they did on a lot of the popular wrestlers, like 2 or 3 minute little video of them talking smack, and then they go right into the show, go right into a match. Yeah,
a lot of that changed when, let's face it, feuds are kind of, I don't want to say the feuds are dead. They still use feuds, but basically a lot of them don't mean anything. They don't go anywhere.
Right.
Because they've killed the mid card, where you used to have guys that would like be tag team champion, and then whatever mid card single title, and then they would go and it would be a steady progression up. Now it's kind of like you show up and you're either in the world heavyweight champion picture, or you're not.
Yeah. Like I was telling you, I missed WCW. I mean, that was my show. I loved watching WCW because they were different than WWF at the time. But, I mean...
Well, they always had been, because WCW was Southern Wrestling. And that's, right. That's exactly what they call it, is Southern Wrestling.
Yeah.
It was the wrestling that was done with the NWA and through Crockett Promotions and all of that.
Right.
That was primarily big in, like, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida,
Alabama.
Louisiana was another big state for it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Which
they were used to. I kind of hate to use the term, but it was more real.
Yeah.
There was blood, there was violence, there was people getting chased out of arenas,
Yeah.
Granted, like I remember Jesse Ventura talking about how many times in the WWE he got stabbed.
Yeah.
Or someone tried to stab him, because,
Yeah.
at the time they believed everything was real. It was a legitimate sport, and it was dangerous if you were a heel. Like we were actually talking about the fact that where the term parts unknown came from.
Yeah.
They used to introduce all the heels as from parts unknown.
For safety reasons.
Because they didn't want to risk somebody coming up and finding them.
Right.
Or finding their family or something like that. So,
yeah.
In a way, I'm kind of glad, because I mean, I've met some of the wrestlers.
Right.
Some of the guys. I mean, one of the big ones that I met is the Steiner brothers.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
at the
one?
time,
Both of them?
yeah,
Okay.
they were actually. It was right after Scott had gotten injured, and Rick took his place in the NWO. And then when Scott came back, they reformed the Steiner brothers, but they were still heels.
Right.
They're two of the nicest guys in the world.
And you wouldn't think that seeing them on TV.
Yeah, you think, here they are, they're, especially Scott, and you Scott has a bad reputation in everywhere because
Yeah.
however it happened. I mean, he did pass a steroid test in TNA, at least we've been told, but he was known for having fits of rage and all of this. But
Right.
when I met, I mean, the guy, they were up taking pictures, big, huge smiles on their face, talking to everybody, just two happy, friendly guys. And to think that, someone would want to drive to their house and shoot them for cheating in a match that was scripted,
Yeah, it's
It
ridiculous.
was good that era in wrestling has gone, so these guys can, sleep safely, and not be. Which, I mean, Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner are not their real names,
Right.
but it's just that's it's safer for them. And then think about guys that do actually use their real name, like Randy Orton.
Yeah.
If
John
he had
Cena.
Cena's never been a heel. Well, he did do at the beginning of the Dr. Thugonomics thing, he was a heel.
Well, until recently, that he's pretty much retired now.
Yeah.
He kind of became a heel just before he retired.
Well, he did his little heelish.
Yeah.
They love teasing heel stuff like what they did with Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
I mean, with The Undertaker and that. And I still say everyone's like, oh, they should have changed Roman Reigns heel. Yeah, you had one chance to change Roman Reigns heel, and they screwed the pooch on it. They lost it.
Yeah.
That was it. That was what that would have been the perfect moment. If I was doing it, I would have ran with it. When he had so much heat that the fans actually were chanting "F you Roman" and would not let him talk.
Which I don't think they should have ever made Roman Reigns a heel, because he's too nice of a guy.
Well, look what I was just talking about. So were the Steiner brothers.
I mean,
Yet they've been heel.
Genuinely, he is a nice guy. I mean, from what I understand, in real life, he's really a nice guy.
See, that's the thing. There are a lot of them that are heels, but that's what they do, And it's a character they play. It's not a matter of, actually thinking or being like, or saying the stuff that you say and do. It's a character that they portray. They're hired to do.
Right.
So, a lot of the guys were nice.
Yeah.
Like they talk about, George Animal Steel.
Yeah.
Okay. When he first got going in Detroit, I believe was where he first started. He was a monster heel. He was known for hurting people. They actually hired a guy that could dislocate his arm on command.
Wow.
Just so George could do it in the ring and everyone would see it. Ugh. And it would look like he broke the man's arm.
Ouch.
But at the same time, behind the scenes, one of the nicest people you would ever meet.
Well, I have actually met two former WWE wrestlers that were jerks in the ring and jerks in real life. One of them, Psycho Sid, complete jerk. The other one, Jake the Snake, complete jerk.
You're actually, you talk about two of them that have the most reputation for being that. And of course, that depends on if you meet which Jake the Snake you meet and what he happens to be on at the time.
Well, when I met him, was in a little town called Pikeville, Kentucky, and he was with Bluegrass Wrestling, and he was doing a show.
And coke?
No, he was actually drinking himself to death.
Well, yeah, but he did. I'm sure you remember the rumor that he actually held a title hostage until Vince McMahon personally went out and bought him an 8-ball. Right,
but no, he was just drunk and obnoxious and chasing around girls that were young enough to be his daughters or granddaughters.
Yeah, that's pretty much Jake the Snake's signature move there.
And that Psycho said he was just a jerk. I asked him for his autograph, and he was a jerk about it. And it just so happened that one of the Legion of Doom guys, the tall one, Hawk, he was there. And I asked him for his autograph, and he's like, yeah, man, just give me a minute. Let me get a pen. I'll give you my autograph. I met Fabulous Sherry, one of the nicest female wrestlers you ever could meet.
And see, they're another one. Also, one of the greatest heel managers of all time.
And she was real nice.
Yeah. You know, I'd heard that about there because another one, another one of the wrestlers, and actually kind of became friends with this one, was named Marty Jannetty.
Yeah.
I knew him pretty well, and he was good friends with Sherry Martello when she passed away, and he talked a lot about her.
Right.
And how she was just like an incredible, sweet, caring person. But when you turn the lights on and she's Sensational Sherry, she was she was evil bitch, you know?
Yeah, she played her part well, but in real life, I can honestly say from experience, she's like one of the nicest female wrestlers.
And you know, that's what you know, that's what I was talking about when I said, you know, that really Roman did have a heel run already.
Yeah.
Just not as a single.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. You know, you can't, they've got to play, they play the character. And even if it isn't in their normal nature, like there's some people that, of the current group, Orton has probably the worst reputation.
Which I think, even though he plays a weird psycho character, I think he's a nice guy in real life. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think he is.
No, he's actually got one of the worst reputations when like dealing with fans and things like that.
Oh, he does?
He does. But, and in his defense, whenever anything comes out like that, I kind of agree with him. Like, a guy ran into him at a gym and started bugging him for an autograph, and he's like, dude, just wait till I'm done.
Yeah. Well, in cases like that, I can understand.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But in general, I think he's a nice guy.
They talk about like him when he's leaving Raw or something like that. The only time they actually said the only time he's ever nice to fans if he runs out of cigarettes. He'll come out and bum cigarettes off of somebody. That's when he's the nicest to the fans. He wants something. But then again, like you said, you know, I've heard Orton talk about it himself, and he goes, a lot of people think I'm an ass when honestly I'm just shy. I don't like being around people.
Right. Well,
and so
that's kind of funny because of the profession he's in. He's around people pretty much 24/7, almost 365 days out of the year.
And see, there's another guy that was actually like that. Ed used to talk about, they did a book of road stories or something like that. And they asked him, like, what's your favorite restaurants to eat at? And he said strip clubs. And they're like,
okay.
And he's like, I'm shy and I don't really like being around people. He's like, so when I go to eat, I usually go to strip clubs because one, it's dark.
And number two, nobody really bothers me.
Nobody's looking at me. He's like, and I can go to a table in the back. I can eat my dinner and I can leave. So he eats at strip clubs. That was Mark Henry, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what it is. He's like, you know, and they talk about, like, if you meet him out in public, he's a nice guy. But like I said, he's gotten more accustomed to it. Now he's more of like, he's in what do they call it? The WWE ambassador roles or whatever.
Right. He's almost veteran now.
Well, he is a veteran. I think he retired because he's in the Hall of Fame.
No. Randy Orton? No.
No. Henry.
Oh, Henry. Yes. I thought you were still talking about Orton.
Orton's doing well. If Orton could stay healthy, Orton is wrestling still.
Yeah. But here's something I want to touch on a little bit is wrestlers that I do not like. I've been wanting to speak out on this for a while. I am a very anti Brock Lesnar person. I do not like the dude. Never liked him. When he first came out, I thought he was a total jerk, and he's still a jerk now.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's another one that's got a reputation of being that guy. That he's an ass.
Yeah. I mean, I was never a Triple H fan, and still am not. I like Generation X, but as far as Triple H himself, I was not a fan of his and never will be. To me, he's a jerk. And married into the McMahon family for money. because he saw dollar signs. And he's like, well, if I married the daughter, I'll be set for life.
I guess it could be.
I mean, that's just my opinion on the dude. Mark Henry, so-so.
I always liked Mark Henry, except for his characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it. When he was sexual chocolate during the Attitude Era, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a little over the top.
Especially when he had a relationship with, wasn't it Mae Young?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mae Young.
And
Yeah.
she gave birth to a rubber hand.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Was wrong.
Yeah, that was very wrong.
And then they start making him, because actually he had to go get trained.
Yeah,
They sent him to Ohio Valley, and he went to get training in Louisville.
yeah,
Well, when he came back, they gave him, I still remember, to me, it was one of the most racist characters I've ever seen. They called him the Silverback,
yeah.
Mark Henry. And I literally remember him climbing to the top of the steel cage and beating his chest. I'm like,
Okay.
they're portraying him like King Kong.
That if that is not racist, I don't know what it is.
Well, Triple H has always had that kind of line to him.
Yeah,
So I'm just like, huh? I mean, remember when he told Booker T, people that look like you don't win titles.
yeah. I remember that.
But I'm looking at this. I'm like, this guy's a legitimate athlete. He literally is has won multiple competitions as the world's strongest man. He's done all this this incredible stuff. He's an Olympic competitor.
Yeah,
And they've got him climbing a cage and beating his chest, calling him a Silverback.
yeah. That's just wrong.
Now, when they did the Hall of Pain version of Mark Henry, and especially when he came out and did the retirement speech and suckered John Cena, that was incredible. I love that. That was because Mark Henry can play a great monster heel.
Right.
Even though it is not in his nature and nothing like him in real life, he played it perfect. That's when I saw the potential in him, but like I said, they almost killed him with the Silverback and Sexual Chocolate.
Right.
But when they did the Hall of Pain, that was when they got, okay, that was like, okay, this is good.
And that was towards the end of his career, wasn't it?
Yep. I think it was maybe the last 5 years of his career, 4 years of his career.
Now, here's a wrestler that I just do not like above all wrestlers. And you know the one I'm talking about because we talked about him earlier.
Not right offhand. I'm always thinking Kenny Omega, that little chicken clucker.
He was, he's from Texas originally.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure exactly.
316.
Oh, Austin.
I despise that guy to this day and always will.
I like him on the mic. And I mean, it's something that actually a lot of people have started pointing out now that, the fact of it is, like when he would stomp the mud hole, his kicks were crap.
The whole flipping people off, drinking beer in the middle of the ring, all of that. I'm not into that. To me, that's not wrestling. To me, that's being stupid.
Well, it all depends on how it's used because there's a guy in AEW now. And I cannot remember his name. All I remember is his gimmick is the Perfect 10. Yeah. He was in WWE for a while, and it was funny because he was this guy flipped him off, and he did some kind of move to him, and his big thing is it's a 10, and you're a 1.
Wow!
And that's exactly what he does. He puts up the two hands,
and
10
then
fingers,
gives a universal sign.
Flips over and does flips the guy off, and is like you're a 1. And so when you're dealing with something like that you can work it in right. That the whole thing with Austin doing that was when he stunned McMahon and he got right in his face, like, you're not going to control me. That was the representation. Right. And that worked for the time.
To me, he was just a character that children did not need to look up to.
You got to remember, this was during the Attitude Era. There were a lot of characters children didn't need to look up to.
Right.
Nobody needed to look up to Val Venus or the Godfather or Naked Midian, for God's sakes.
Or Head.
Yeah, or Al Snow.
Al Snow. Yeah,
the crazy guy that talked to a mannequin head.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like I said, can you really see, like, when little Timmy comes in wearing a thong and banana hammock and goes, I'm going to be just like Naked Midian. This is how I'm going to school from now on.
Well, you're talking-
Timmy, get go.
Well, you're saying Little Timmy. It reminds me of R-Truth. Did the Little Jimmy.
Little Jimmy, yeah.
Little Jimmy. That one, I could never figure that one out. Why they had him do that character? It
was actually something that snowballed from a promo, if I remember right. Because he originally was making fun of Cena. And he was like, oh, well, look, I got my little Jimmy too, because Cena does a lot. He was the heel at the time. And he was and Cena has always been doing stuff with Make-A-Wish and all of that. Right. And he's like, you're always running around with your kids and you get your little Jimmy. Yeah. Well, look, I got me a little Jimmy too, like that. But then it kind of snowballed after the feud ended with their, I can remember. Okay. I can remember exactly when it was born, when it was like that. R-Truth, they were kind of making like he was out of shape.
Yeah. And
he would stop and get drinks from people out of the crowd during the match.
Right.
I think a little kid threw a drink in his face, and that led Cena. And he's like, "That's what you set me up. You had little Jimmy working with you."
Yeah.
And that's when it started. And he started calling everyone Little Jimmy. And then by then it got down to where he was talking to the Invisible.
And I think I vividly remember every time R-Truth would start coming out towards the stage, that he would look around for little Jimmy.
Yeah. And then he started and then he started talking to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly it. That's how it got going.
And I thought that was weird.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of Ron Killings.
Is that his real name?
That's his real name, yeah. Okay. He was K-Quick originally in the WWE, then he became Ron the Truth Killings in TNA, and then when he came into WWE, they brought him in as a serious character. They did the vignettes and everything, bringing him in, showing how, I think he's from, turn it back in my mind, he's from Charlotte, North Carolina.
I thought he was originally from Florida.
I don't know. It might be somewhere, but anyway.
Like Tampa or something like that.
I don't know.
Or Clearwater, something like that.
I don't know. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll look it up some other day.
But anyway, they had him like showing like from the streets and stuff like that, and they brought him in as a serious character, and then they kind of, Little Jimmy, Little Jimmy happened, and once Little Jimmy happened, that was kind of the end of the Truth.
Right.
And it was really sad because R-Truth is a rather exceptional talent. He's good. He can really go. He's a former world champion in Ring of Honor and in TNA. So he was not a world champion in Ring of Honor. It was an NWA champion and a TNA world champion.
Right.
And that's what and to see him kind of just get wasted the way he has been, and now this 24/7 title, which it's a good little comedy spot where it's at. And what they do with it, especially, I get a kick out of him calling Rockstar Spud Hornswoggle.
That's just terrible. Because I liked Hornswoggle. He was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, I liked Hornswoggle too, but it was just like I said. It's hilarious when he's sitting there and he looks at him and he's like. The one that got me was like I think 2 weeks ago, when they had him. They had him in the elevator, and Carmella made him stop talking and like no one can talk unless they got that. And then everyone started grabbing the hat, and he grabs it and he's like, "I'm scared of Hornswoggle." And then the guy, I can't remember his name in the WWE, but most people would know him as Rockstar Spud. He grabs it and he's like, "I'm not Hornswoggle. I'm just a very short man." That was hilarious.
That is hilarious.
And our Ron Killings is from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For some reason, I thought he was from somewhere in Florida.
He may have got actually George South. Yeah, he probably got his start in Florida.
Okay, maybe that's where I thought. But anyway, those are just some of the wrestlers that I don't like to this day.
Yeah, if we went into people you don't like, we'd be here for 3.5 hours.
Oh. But I'll tell you, but here's the ones that I do like. And I will always like. Hogan, top of the list.
Now, why? Okay, this is a guy that's gotten a lot of crap here, especially recently.
Well, he's made some stupid mistakes. He's said some things that he shouldn't have said, but he has straightened up, from what I understand. He has apologized, and he's.
I'm saying, what about Hogan? I mean, what was the first?
Well, as you know, I'm not originally from this country, and when I came to this country, I knew nothing about what they call professional wrestling. I never heard of such a thing. Just like I never heard of football, baseball, basketball. Never heard of such a thing. So when I came into this country, I was 11, almost 12, and I got introduced to wrestling because I was in and out of the hospital a lot the first year that I was in this country, because of surgeries that I had to have. And one of the first things I got introduced to on TV was wrestling. And Hogan had just become the main face of wrestling at that time. He was like the poster child for wrestling at that time, with that say your prayer, take your vitamins, say your prayer.
The Hulkamania.
Yeah, the Hulkamania, the red and yellow. And because of his character, the way he carried himself, the way he talked, I became a fan of his. And to this day, I'm still a fan of his, even though he became the Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and then he became some kind of superhero bird character.
Oh, that was the what was it, Mr. America or something like that.
Something
but
like
he was
that.
supposedly fired. It was the old bait and switch where he was supposedly fired by Vince McMahon,
Right.
and then he goes
Right.
and he puts the mask on, and everybody knows it's Hogan, but Vince McMahon. You
Right.
know.
I mean, come on. The mustache gives it away.
And he's standing there doing doing
the Hulk
and he
Hogan,
Hulk,
the
and
arm
he hulks
thing.
up, you know,
Yeah,
in the
and
match.
it's like, come on. Everybody knows it's Hulk Hogan.
Well, see, that's actually, I was reading a book not long ago, and they talked about that. It's like, well, when they did this kind of stuff, everyone the non-fans would look at it and go, "Oh, that is so stupid." But then the real fans look at it and be like, "Yeah, but we're all in on the joke." See,
Yeah,
we know,
we all know what's going
like
on here.
what was it? Dusty Rhodes did the Midnight Rider or something like that.
Right.
Stagger Lee,
Yeah,
that was Junkyard Dog.
yeah.
You know, he lost the loser leaves match, so they went and got a masked wrestler named Stagger Lee.
Right.
That
right.
just happened to look a whole lot like the Junkyard
Junkyard
Dog,
Dog.
just not named Junkyard Dog. You know, that was the way they did it until they could work them back in, and that was the same with Hogan. It was an old school wrestling skit.
Well, another wrestler I liked, may God rest his soul, was Macho Man Randy Savage, who actually is originally from Lexington, Kentucky. Most people don't know that. He was born in Lexington, Kentucky. I liked Macho Man with his tie-dye colors, his deep voice.
Is why I don't even know the Macho when he gets old.
Randy Savage. Oh, yeah.
Everybody does the step into a Slim Jim.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite.
And this
thing
time
of-
we are actually talking about Slim Jim, the beef jerky, not the crackhead down the street.
Exactly. Yeah. We're talking about the commercial that was fun. And another character I liked was Sting,
Yeah.
Lex Luger, Buff Bagwell.
Definitely see a 90s WCW trend.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just telling you, these are wrestlers that I like. Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. I liked him in WWE, and I liked him in WCW.
Yeah.
Because he was really the same person
Well, yeah, he was
in either.
He was
or.
always just Kurt Hennig,
Yeah.
you know.
Now his son, that's a different story. We won't even go there.
That's a way. Yeah, we're starting to run a little bit on time here, but that is one we could get into because actually that's not a bad idea for a show. Third generation star.
Yeah, some of them are good. Some of them are terrible.
Curtis Axel could be better if they would book him better, but he's already gotten demoted down to he needs to go to somewhere else. Honest to God, he needs to ask for his release and get the hell out of the WWE
or go back to NXT.
Yeah, something of that nature. That's just it. He needs to get out of the WWE.
But well, this has been fun.
Yep, we want to. I keep doing the we because I'm so used to either having.
Well, it is a we.
Well, yeah, but it didn't make sense with that. Anyway, I'm always I've got, which is always confusing. I've either got
Wrestling Mike.
Wrestler Mike, or when I'm doing my other podcast, I've got Michael Smith that co-hosts that with me. So I'm always used to having a we in a conversation, but I want to thank you for coming on and being here with us and getting into a little bit of what we were planning before we got off on a tangent. But if anyone knows anything about me, and definitely if anyone listens to this with me and Mike, this happens more often than not. And
hopefully this will not be the last time on the show.
Well, that'll all depend on the ratings.
Oh, fight me.